Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at a pretty interesting chapter from Desire of Ages. It's called The Law of the New Kingdom Service and Sacrifice.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
I'm excited to jump in. But before we do, maybe just kind of set the stage a little bit for us. Where are we in the story? What's going on?
Yeah, so we're on the road to Jerusalem, Jesus, and his disciples are heading to Passover.
Passover. Okay, so big celebration, lots of excitement.
Exactly. It's a time when everyone's looking forward to, freedom and deliverance.
Right, celebrating their freedom.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is that in the midst of all this excitement and anticipation, Jesus starts talking about something completely different,
Oh, really? Like what?
suffering and betrayal. He's actually foreshadowing his own death.
Wow, so you've got this clash between the disciples' expectations of, a triumphant kingdom.
Exactly. They're thinking victory parades a king who overthrows the Romans, the whole shebang.
Right, the classic kind of image of a powerful leader.
Yeah, but Jesus keeps hinting at something totally different. Service, sacrifice, a kingdom that doesn't look anything like what they're used to.
It's almost like he's speaking a different language.
In a way, yeah. He's using the same words, but with a completely different meaning.
Okay, I see where the conflict is brewing here. And then you got the story of James and John, which kind of brings it all to a head, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a classic. Their mother actually goes to Jesus and asks for her sons to have the highest positions in his kingdom.
Oh, wow. So they're thinking prime real estate right next to the throne.
Literally one on the right, one on the left. I mean, can you imagine?
It's kind of funny when you think about it.
It is, but you have to remember back then, power and position meant everything. That's how you measured success.
So even Jesus's closest followers, the ones who had seen him perform miracles,
Yeah.
they're still caught up in that worldly ambition.
Yeah, it's so human right. We all struggle with that to some extent, wanting recognition, chasing after those things that the world tells us are important.
It makes me wonder, how often do I get caught up in those same traps? Wanting to be the best or have the most.
It's something we all face, trying to reconcile our human desires with the values of Christ's kingdom, which are completely different.
So how does Jesus respond to James and John's request? Does he get upset with them?
No, actually. He's incredibly patient and gentle. He doesn't condemn their ambition.
So he uses it as a teaching moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He uses it as an opportunity to explain what true greatness really looks like in his kingdom.
And that's where we get that famous line, right? The Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life a ransom for many.
That's it. It's such a powerful statement, but it can be a little hard to wrap your head around sometimes.
It is intense.
Yeah.
What does it actually mean to minister and give your life as a ransom? I mean, those are strong words.
They are. And it completely flips the script on what the world tells us about power and success. Think about it. Jesus is saying true greatness isn't about being served, it's about serving others.
So it's not just about being nice or helpful. It's about something much deeper.
Yes, it's about putting others' needs before your own, even to the point of giving up your own life for them.
Wow, that's a high standard. And we see that reflected in Jesus' whole life, right? He was constantly healing the sick, feeding the hungry, challenging injustice.
Exactly. He never put himself first. He was always looking for ways to serve and uplift others.
Okay, so Jesus is the ultimate example. But what about us regular folks?
Yeah.
How do we even begin to live that way?
That's what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at some practical ways to apply these principles in our everyday lives.
Sounds good. I'm ready to keep digging.
Me too.
But for now, we'll take a quick break and be back soon for part 2.
Can't wait. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the law of the new kingdom, service and sacrifice. We were just talking about how radical Jesus's idea of service and sacrifice really is.
It really is mind-blowing when you think about it, giving up everything, even your own life, for others. I mean, how do we even wrap our heads around that?
I know it's a lot to take in, but that's the beauty of it. I think it challenges us to think beyond ourselves, to see the world through a different lens.
Yeah, it's like it flips everything we think we know about success and power on its head.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what would it look like if we actually lived that way? If we put others first in everything we did.
It's a tough question. I think we see a glimpse of it in the story of the early church, right? They seem to have figured out a way to live this out in a really tangible way.
Oh, absolutely. They were known for their radical generosity, their compassion, their willingness to serve anyone in need. It's pretty inspiring.
It is, but it's also kind of intimidating. Like, how did they do it? What made them so different from everyone else?
Well, I think one key factor was their humility. They didn't see themselves as better than anyone else. They were willing to get their hands dirty to serve in whatever way was needed.
That's so countercultural, especially today when everyone's trying to climb to the top to be the best.
It's true, but the early Christians understood that true greatness comes from humility, from serving others, not from seeking power or recognition.
Like when Jesus washed his disciples' feet. I mean, that's a pretty powerful image, right? The Son of God humbling himself to serve his followers.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it, and I think it was a deliberate act on Jesus's part. He was showing them that true leadership isn't about lording it over others. It's about serving them, empowering them, lifting them up.
So he was saying actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. And I think that's a powerful lesson for us today, no matter what our role is in life, whether we're parents, teachers, business leaders, whatever it may be.
So you're saying that the principles of servant leadership apply to everyone, not just those in positions of authority.
Absolutely. It's about shifting our mindset from what can I get, how can I give, how can I make a difference in the lives of others?
So it's not about grand gestures or waiting for the perfect opportunity. It's about those everyday moments where we choose to put others first.
Yeah, exactly. Like offering to help a coworker who's struggling, listening to a friend who needs to vent, even just smiling at a stranger. Those little things can go a long way.
It's funny you mentioned smiling at a stranger because I think that's something we often underestimate. The power of a simple smile can brighten someone's day.
Yeah, it really can. And it doesn't cost us anything to do it. It's like a little spark of joy that we can share with the world.
But what about those times when we just don't feel like being kind?
Mm.
When we're stressed or exhausted or just in a bad mood. How do we tap into that spirit of service when it feels like the last thing we want to do?
That's a great question. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about gratitude. When we focus on the good things in our lives, it shifts our perspective.
Mhm.
It makes us more aware of the needs of others and more willing to help.
It's like gratitude opens our hearts to compassion.
Exactly. And I think another important element is cultivating humility, recognizing that we're not the center of the universe, that we all have strengths and weaknesses, and that we need each other.
Humility is tough, though, especially in a culture that's so focused on individualism and achievement.
It is, but it's so important because it allows us to see the value in others, to appreciate their gifts and talents, and to work together for the common good.
It's like when we let go of our egos, we open ourselves up to a whole new level of connection and joy.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. And it brings us back to the heart of this chapter. It's not about seeking our own glory. It's about reflecting God's love to the world through acts of service and sacrifice.
And the amazing thing is that anyone can do this no matter who they are or what their circumstances are.
That's right. Everyone has something to offer. Everyone can make a difference in the world.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to encourage everyone listening to think about one small act of service they can do today. It doesn't have to be anything huge, just something to show love and kindness to someone else.
I love that. And if you're looking for more inspiration or guidance, I highly recommend checking out the Advent Nova channel. They have a ton of great resources on this topic.
It's been an incredible journey exploring this chapter together, and I'm excited to see where it takes us in the next part.
Me too. Let's keep digging.
All right, so we're back and ready to dive into the final part of our deep dive on the law of the new kingdom, service and sacrifice.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation so far.
It really has. It's amazing how much this chapter packs in. It's not just about some abstract concept of service. It really gets to the heart of what it means to live a meaningful life.
Totally. It's challenging us to rethink our whole approach to success and happiness.
Yeah, it's not about what we acquire, but about what we give, what we contribute to the world.
And I think that's what resonates with people so much. We all have this deep down desire to make a difference, to leave the world a little better than we found it.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. How do we actually put this into practice in our everyday lives? It's easy to get inspired during a deep dive like this, but then Monday morning rolls around and we're back to the grind.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we bridge the gap between inspiration and action?
Right, because it can feel overwhelming sometimes. Like, where do we even begin with all of this?
I think one of the biggest mistakes we make is thinking that service has to be this huge, grand gesture.
Like we have to go on a mission trip or start a nonprofit or something.
Exactly.
Sorry.
But remember, Jesus started by washing feet. It was a simple act of service that no one else wanted to do.
So you're saying it's about those small, everyday moments where we choose to put others first.
Yeah, exactly. Like offering to help a coworker who's swamped, or listening patiently to a friend who's going through a tough time, or even just holding the door open for someone. Those little things can make a big difference.
And I think those small acts of kindness are often more meaningful than we realize. They can really brighten someone's day, and who knows, maybe it'll inspire them to pay it forward.
Exactly. It's like that ripple effect. You throw a pebble in the water and the ripples spread out further than you can see.
Okay, so we're talking about small acts of kindness, but what about those times when we're just not feeling it? We're stressed or exhausted, or just in a bad mood. How do we tap into that spirit of service when it feels like the last thing we want to do?
That's where I think gratitude comes in. When we focus on all the good things in our lives, it shifts our perspective. It helps us to see the needs of others more clearly.
So instead of focusing on what we're lacking, we focus on what we have to be thankful for.
Exactly. And that opens our hearts to compassion and generosity.
It's like gratitude is the fuel that powers our acts of service.
I like that. And along with gratitude, I think humility is also essential. Recognizing that we're not the center of the universe.
Right, remembering that we all have strengths and weaknesses and that we need each other.
Exactly. And when we can approach life with that kind of humility, it makes it easier to serve others without expecting anything in return.
It's like we're all on this journey together, and we can either try to go it alone or we can support each other along the way.
And I think that's really the beauty of the law of the new kingdom. It's not about competition or self-promotion. It's about collaboration and mutual upliftment.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave everyone with this thought. What's one small act of service you can do today to reflect God's love to the world?
It doesn't have to be anything huge, just something to brighten someone's day or make their load a little lighter.
Because ultimately, that's what this is all about.
Mm.
It's about spreading kindness and compassion and making the world a little bit better, one small act at a time.
It's been an incredible journey exploring this chapter with you all.
I agree, and I hope everyone listening will continue to ponder these ideas and find ways to put them into practice in their own lives.
And if you're looking for more inspiration or resources, be sure to check out the Advent Nova channel. They have a wealth of information on this topic and many others.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.